The night my parents said it, the room felt smaller than it ever had. Pay up or leave this family. Your choice. They didn't shout. That would have been easier to process. They said it calmly, like they were discussing a bill that had gone overdue, like I was a tenant who had stopped paying rent, not their child. I remember staring at the dining table, the same table where we had eaten together for years, where birthdays were celebrated, where I had once done homework while my mom cooked and my dad read the newspaper. Now it felt like a negotiation table. How much? I asked quietly. My father slid a paper across to me. A list. Groceries, utilities, medical expenses, house contribution, even a line that simply said miscellaneous support. The total at the bottom looked like something you'd charge a roommate, not a son or daughter. You live here. You eat here. You use everything here, my mother added. It's time you start paying your share. I had just started my job a few months earlier. I wasn't earning much, but I was proud of it. I had plans, savings goals, dreams of moving forward. But in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered to them was that I had a paycheck. I already help when you ask. I said, I pay for things. I run errands. That's not enough. My father cut in. Either you contribute properly or you leave. We're not running a charity. The word charity echoed in my head. Was that what I was to them? A burden? A liability that needed to justify their presence with money? I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I simply nodded. Okay, I said. They thought I meant I would pay. I meant something else. That night, I went to my room and sat in the dark for a long time. I looked around at the walls I had grown up with, the posters, the books, the old memories. Everything suddenly felt temporary. I realized something painful. If your place in a family depends on payment, then it's not a home. It's a contract, and contracts can be terminated. The next morning, before anyone woke up, I packed a small bag. Clothes, important documents, my laptop. I left everything else behind. I walked out quietly. No drama, no confrontation. No goodbye. They had given me 2 options. I chose. I didn't go far at first. Just a cheap rented room above a mechanic's shop on the other side of town. The kind of place where the fan made more noise than wind and the paint peeled like old paper. But when I locked that door behind me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. No one was watching what I ate. No one was calculating how much electricity I used. No one was silently keeping score of my existence. I slept on the floor that first night with my bag as a pillow, and I slept better than I had in months. The next few weeks were hard. I had to stretch every rupee. I ate simple food. I walked instead of taking transport. I learned how little a person actually needs when they are no longer trying to prove they deserve space. I focused on work. I stayed late. I volunteered for extra tasks. I learned faster than anyone expected, not because I wanted praise, but because I needed stability. Meanwhile, my parents didn't call. Not the first day, not the first week, not even the first month. At first, it hurt. Then it became information. They hadn't wanted me. They had wanted my money. Once they realized I wasn't paying, I simply stopped existing to them. That realization did something powerful inside me. It removed guilt completely. I stopped feeling like I had abandoned them. I understood that I had simply accepted the terms they offered. You said pay or leave. I left. Months passed. My job improved. My salary increased. I moved from that tiny room to a small apartment, then a better one. I bought my own furniture, my own utensils, my own bed. Every item I owned had a story of effort behind it. One evening, as I sat in my apartment eating dinner alone, my phone rang. It was my mother. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Hello. Her voice sounded different, softer, hesitant. How are you? I'm fine. Silence. Then, why did you leave like that? I almost laughed, not out of disrespect, but disbelief. You told me to. I replied calmly. Pay up or leave. I chose. She didn't respond immediately. Then she said, we didn't think you'd actually go. That sentence told me everything. They thought it was a threat, a pressure tactic, a way to control me. They never expected me to value my dignity more than staying. Over the next few minutes, she told me things had become difficult. Bills were piling up. My father's medical expenses were increasing. They were struggling. And then she said it. We need help. Not we miss you. Not come home. Not we were wrong. We need help. I felt no anger, no bitterness, just clarity. I can help, I said, but not the way you expect. She stayed quiet, listening. I will support you as a son or daughter, not as a tenant. There will be no lists, no price tags on my presence, no conditions tied to money, and I will never live under a roof where my value is measured in currency again. She didn't argue. She couldn't, because for the first time, the power dynamic had changed. I wasn't speaking from their house anymore. I was speaking from mine. Over time, I started sending them some money voluntarily, not because they demanded it, because I chose to. The difference mattered deeply. When I visited months later, the house felt smaller. The same table, the same chairs, but the air had changed. They spoke to me differently, carefully, respectfully, almost cautiously, not out of fear, but out of realization. They had learned that love cannot be invoiced, and a child who is treated like a bill will eventually stop showing up. That night, as I left their house, my father walked me to the gate. He didn't say much, just one sentence. We were wrong. That was all I needed, because the real victory wasn't leaving. It was coming back on my own terms. Over time, something subtle but important changed between us. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily. They stopped talking to me like someone who owed them. They started talking to me like someone they didn't want to lose again. When I visited, my mother would ask if I had eaten, not as a reminder of what I consumed, but as a gesture of care. My father would sit with me longer than usual, asking about work, listening without interrupting. There were no more lists on the table, no more comments about expenses, no more quiet calculations in their eyes. And I noticed something else. I wasn't angry anymore. Distance had done what arguments never could. It had given us perspective. They understood that a family is not sustained by financial pressure. And I understood that sometimes people don't realize the damage they're causing until the consequences arrive quietly. I still helped them. I still sent money when they needed it. But now it came with respect, not obligation. Choice, not coercion. The biggest difference was inside me. I no longer felt like a child trying to earn a place at the table. I felt like an adult who could walk away and still choose to come back. And that choice changed everything. The night they said, pay up or leave, they thought they were forcing a decision. What they really did was teach me